What's up, y'all? This your boy Lando, aka the King of Film. I'm sorry it's been a while since I did my last video review. As usual, things been coming up and I've been busy doing a lot of other stuff, but I think the last time I did my last video review, I reviewed Children of the Corn 3 Urban Harvest. And I remember giving that a good positive review too. So if you haven't seen that one yet, feel free to check it out. Like I said, I highly endorse it. I think it's probably one of the best out of the Children of the Corn series. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. As usual, I'm going to be reviewing another horror movie. But the difference tonight is that this horror movie is not a sequel or a remake or a readaptation for anything. And if you already figured out, this is another horror movie from the early 90s. For some strange reason, I just really like the horror movies from the 80s to 90s. But we'll get into that later. If you don't know what I'm already talking about, or so I won't beat around the bush, I'm going to be reviewing Brainscan today. I don't know if you all remembered it, but it came out in 1994, and it's a sci-fi horror flick. This movie stars Edward Furlong and Frank Langella. And I'm going to give you my honest opinion on it. This was a good, well done, stylish horror movie. Now, I remember when it first came out, I was like 10 years old, getting ready to turn 10. I remember them showing previews of it. I don't think it was a big box office hit when it first came out in theaters, but that doesn't take away from the quality and the talent that had a hand in making this movie. Okay, it was a lot of things that was really, really good with this movie. For one, I thought the script was its strongest feature of the movie. I mean, the script was done in such a way where it gave a good social commentary on video games in general, especially the video games of that time. Because I remember when that movie came out, video games was popular. I mean, they're popular now, but they was just becoming really, really, really popular. And I noticed that it was an increase in violence and sadism in video games at that point. Especially virtual reality games were at its highest peak. I mean, every time you turned around, it was some new interactive video game that was coming out. Some new interactive video game that you had to experience because it felt so real. So I just liked how this movie touched on a lot of the things, especially the video gaming subculture of the early to late 90s. I mean, when you look at this movie, I mean, it speaks early 90s from its style, its dress, its signature, and just to its feel. It just speaks early 90s. It was like, I guess what you could say, a love letter to what it was growing up in the early 90s, especially being influenced by video games. So I thought that aspect of the script was really good. I mean, the way everything was handled, it didn't come off cheesy. Like, it wasn't like you scratched your head and was like, okay, what's the point in all this? That didn't make no sense. It's just everything was handled with care. And, you know, they carefully thought everything out. But that's also due to the direction of John Flynn. John Flynn, he helps craft an engaging sci-fi horror movie. It never feels boring. It never drags. The pacing is good all the way up to the very end. I mean, even though in the end it becomes, you know, I guess typical in a sense, and you kind of know what's going to happen in the end somewhat, but it still feels fresh and remains, you know, engaged until out the very end. But I think that helps due to the performance of Edward Furlong. Now, don't get me wrong. He doesn't give an Oscar-winning performance. He doesn't give even a Golden Globe performance, but his performance for this movie was just right. I mean, he doesn't overact, he doesn't underact. It was just right. When I seen his character, I thought to myself, hey, that's how a teenager in the 90s probably would act. Just the culture that was immersed around him, that he was immersed in, he did a good job fitting into that type of role. I really see, and what's funny about this movie is because this was probably like his first, I think, lead movie after the success of Terminator 2, Judgment Day. So I guess this movie got overlooked because people probably seen him as a different character, and they were just so used to seeing him as John Connor, since that was such an iconic role for him. But I thought he did good with the material that was really given to him. And also, I would like to point out the musical score. The musical score was done by George S. Clinton. Now, I'm not talking about the funk master from the 70s, the funk musician from the 70s, George Clinton. I'm talking about the music composer, the film composer, George S. Clinton, who also did the score for Wild Things. That's a 1998 cult sexy thriller starring Denise Richards and Matt Dillon. That was also another good score too, and that's another good score worth checking out. But the musical score was just so good because it was just basic. It's not, you know, overdone. It's not underdone. It's not underused. It was just basic, you know. It just fit the tone of the movie. And also, I'll say I like the cinematography. The cinematography was well done too, because I like how you was able to see things through Edward Furlong's character's point of view. And you also, you know, as an audience member, it gave you a look inside of what really was going on in his mind, what he's seen. It's just above all in all, I just thought the movie was the material was just handled well. And it's just one of those type of piece of filmmaking that when you look back over, you can say to yourself, man, that is so 1990-ish. Man, that is the 90s. It was just such an accurate representation of what it was to live during the early 90s, especially being a teenager during the mid-90s. And it's just, honestly, personally, I just think if they were to remake this movie now, I just don't think it would have the good social commentary that it had when it was released in 1994. I just think it's funny how this film kind of got swept under the rug, because I guess if you talk to most people about it, they might probably say they heard about it, but I'm going to probably say a lot of the general public haven't heard about it. So this is a movie you definitely should check out. And I remember earlier I talked about how John Flynn, he directed this movie, but I don't think I mentioned all the other movies he directed. One important movie he directed was Lock Up, featuring Sylvester Stallone. That came out in 1989. He also directed the 1991 action thriller Out for Justice starring Steve Seagal. So he has a pretty, I guess, okay resume. I mean, I haven't seen all his movies, but I would say Brainscan, out of all the movies I've seen by him, because I've only seen like 3, so I guess that's not really a good judge of his whole body of work, but I'll say Brainscan was the best. I mean, Brainscan was just a good mid-90s horror movie. And I think it's kind of funny because I'm actually surprised they didn't try to make a sequel to it. I mean, you can argue and say, well, yeah, it didn't really do good at the box office, or a lot of people didn't see it, but I'm really surprised they didn't try to make a straight-to-home video sequel to it, but it's never too late. It's only 2012, so. But Brainscan, like I said, you should check it out. It's a good movie. It has good, I mean, the acting was decent. I think it fit the tone for the movie. The cinematography was good, musical score good, and script was good. And see, I said the script was good. I forgot to tell you that Andrew Kevin Walker wrote the script. He also wrote the script for the 1995, I guess, classic thriller 7. So, Brainscan, in a nutshell, was a good movie. And you should check it out if you haven't already seen it. So, as usual, this is your boy Lando, a.k.a. the King of Film. I mean, I'm going to keep doing what I do. So I hope y'all keep doing what y'all do and keep watching those movies. Holla back at me.